Well, young people in South Africa have to discover their purpose and have a voice in their own communities. And that's the plea from the youth coordinator of Shack Dwellers Movement, Abahlali, baseMjondolo. Thandeka Thusini joins us now to unpack that a little bit for us. Thandeka, good morning to you. I appreciate your time, and it's always such an important call for the youth to own their space, to own their voice. I want to start this conversation, though, by saying how do they do that when they feel so impoverished and so disempowered as the youth of the country? Where do we start to give them that voice and that power? Good morning.
Good morning to you, Gareth, and to your viewers. My name is Thandeka Thusini, as you said, from Abahlali, baseMjondolo. So as the youth of South Africa, especially the poor, we try by all means to organize ourselves through education that we can get, especially the political education, since we know that the youth in South Africa has been left out for a long time now, since 1994. The youth hasn't been offered a chance to voice out their thoughts, their opinions. So, as the youth of Abahlali, baseMjondolo, we felt in pain, being assassinated, being under oppression, and being violated in so many ways. So now we organized ourselves in order to be able to create some way of a journey for ourselves in which we fight the struggles that we are facing. So by that, we formed a camp, or we were joined by other youth members of Abahlali, baseMjondolo in a camp that was held in the 15th of June to the 16th of June in 2023. It was a 6-to-6 camp whereby we were discussing the issues that we are facing, also formulating the resolutions that we think could work possibly enough for us as the poor and could work for us in future, not just for a matter of a now, for other generations that are coming as well. Yeah, thank you.
When you find this voice, Thandeka, the voice is there. It's not as though the voice isn't there. The voices are there. The power of the youth are there. I do wonder, do you get a sense, Thandeka, that those who make decisions, i.e. government, for example, that's where I'm going with this, do you think government listens to the youth? The youth are very vocal. They do have a lot of power. Do you think anyone listens, though? That, I sense, seems to be the problem.
Yes, definitely they do listen, but the way they listen is just that they do not respond to us. So the fact that they just listen, take our memorandum, take our statements every day, we hold meetings with them regularly, but still there are no implementations, there are no resolutions that are brought into the table. It's always about hearing what is worrying us. It's always about hearing what do we have for them, and then they use those opinions of us or those thoughts that we brought to the table in order to benefit themselves only, as if they are the one who thought about them. So we have a voice, yes, we have minds. It's just that we are being abandoned, we are being rejected, we are just being muted, and we are only remanded, but only when it's about time for the elections. So we have a voice, it's just that we are just being abandoned, muted, left out in decision making.
So how do we change that? I mean, you and I are now sitting busy talking about this, and you're quite right. I couldn't agree more, Thandeka. There seems to be a big focus where, with the national government, every time we get close to elections, suddenly everybody is paying attention, everyone's listening. So how do we try and change the fact that you do have this message, you do have this voice, and not have it ignored by those in power? How do we begin to change those in power to actually listen, take in, and act on what you're asking and what you're demanding?
Thank you for that question. So, as Abahlali, baseMjondolo, I'll use that. So, what we think is the best strategy and what we've been testing so far is that if we are educated, it is possible in order to overcome everything. So, what we've done is that we must educate ourselves from the base, from the bottom. We must take people, every human being, so serious, through respect, dignity, and valuing their opinions and their thoughts. So it's by educating ourselves, agitating ourselves, and then we organize ourselves. We can say to mobilize, but I think we are very much mobilized. We know what we want, and we know where we want to be. So it's just that we need some sort of a base, some sort of a platform where we'll be given a chance to implement our own thoughts, to implement our own thinking, our own ideas, not having to rely on someone to act on behalf of us, but when we are giving an opportunity that we'll have to act on ourselves, whereby we are giving a platform to talk and also have our ideas being taken serious. So it's to educate ourselves, build and organize from the below. So that is the only way we think we can be able to go forward.
As we go forward, I'm going to leave this as a last question to you, Thandeka. With this power and this voice that you do have, that you want to have amplified and be taken seriously as well, where do you feel the youth is at the moment? I'm using the youth as a very broad statement, so you can maybe just talk to those that you know about. I understand you can't answer for the whole country. Where do you get a sense that the youth feels on voting and elections? Next year is elections. Does the youth still feel that the elections serve them in any way, shape or form? Last question to you.
Thank you again. So I don't think the youth are patient enough and looking forward to the elections, since they've been going on the same struggles of poverty, unemployment, psychological and emotional abuse, being poor, the repressions, assassinations, no skills development. There is a lot I can count on. So looking forward to the elections and thinking broadly for others as well. We are really not happy about the election processes that we are about to take on, because this is the only time that we feel as if we are being remembered. Oh, there are these young people that we have in the country. So for now, the elections for us, no, I don't think most young people will be taking part on the elections. Though we know that we are in a democratic country and we have to use the voting as part of our voice, but still, it doesn't really work for us and it doesn't suit our interests. So why do we vote if we don't benefit from voting? It is a democratic country, they say. We have to practice voting, but still, if it's not beneficial to us, why do we have to vote?
Yeah, and that is a very, very powerful statement to make, Thandeka, and I appreciate you clarifying for us how the youth, to your mind, are feeling about voting and elections. Not being heard, so you got to start wondering, why bother voting? I think a lot of people your age and the youth that you're fighting for would agree with you, which is very worrying ahead of next year's elections. My thanks. Wonderful interview with Thandeka Thusini from Abahlali, baseMjondolo, making time for us this morning.